Hi there, welcome to the Hi-Fi Plus YouTube channel. Today we're at the Hi-Fi Plus headquarters. I'm Pete Collingwood-Trewin, the publisher of Hi-Fi Plus, and I'm here with Alan Sircom, the editor.
Hi there. Hi, and as you can see, it's tea time. We do this every day, which is why I've been in the company now for a few years, and I started at £96. First of all, I think we should define tea. This is tea, so is this. Tea in the UK is a tradition, and basically we're run on tea, the entire country. There are many kinds of tea, as we said, tea. This is what's known as high tea or afternoon tea, where you have some sandwiches and some cakes and some fancies. And then there's also another thing called tea. And tea, if you're Scottish or from the north, is dinner, is the supper that you have. So we're here for high tea. Hi, tea.
Yes, so usual time, usual place, this is where you can find us. Anyway, today we're more here to talk about hi-fi and what we do.
Yeah.
Predominantly what I'm interested in to hear from Alan today is what's new, what's interesting, what have you seen recently that's noteworthy that we can talk about?
Sure. Well, I've got a little box with me today, and that's this from Nordost, which we're going to flip open, and inside is a very big hockey puck. This is the Nordost QNet. It's a network switch, and now network switches everyone knows about. We're all internet savvy. Everyone knows about network switches. The difference with this one is this is an audiophile switch. It's a second, maybe third generation audiophile switch. And what it does that's particularly different is that you'll see that as opposed to most network switches where everything's in one line, these are divided, they're spaced apart, and that helps prevent any kind of radio frequency or EM transmission from one connector to another. There's a very short space of EM transmission on these on such cables, but when the difference between that sort of distance and directly up against one another does help.
Does the curve on it make any difference?
Not necessarily, but I think it's probably a slightly better shape in terms of anti-resonance and everything else. It's principally designed, as we said, for an audio application. So two of the connections are fast internet, are gigabit Ethernet, which are the ones that you connect to your router or to whatever, and the last three are slower, traditional 1000 base Ethernet connection. That name completely went out of my head there. So they're really designed for a slower use, which is great for music, primarily because if you work with the higher the frequency of the higher the speed of the connection, the more likely you are to put noise in the system. So these are trying desperately to keep noise coming in from one side into the other. So things that are coming in upstream from, say, a router or a drive are trying to be kept away when you're getting with the music system. And that does have a clear sonic effect. I think everyone talks about lowering the noise floor, and yes, of course it does that, but I think more importantly it makes the mid-band and the treble sound more like reality, more like the system should sound. It ain't cheap, but obviously it's a very good device. Now this also comes with its own standard plug top power supply, but realistically, once you've got this is a good option, but there is a better option available, which is the Nordost Q Source, which is a linear power supply taking over from the switch mode power supply, and also controls some other bits in the Nordost chain. And that is such a performance upgrade to this that it makes this is already a big step above a standard network switch or even some of the earlier audiophile switches. But adding the linear power supply makes it an even greater jump.
Okay, and this you reviewed in our latest issue, which will be on sale at the beginning of July.
Yes.
And you were impressed.
Very, very impressed. I think it will be probably staying in my system if I can possibly afford it. Make it sound like it's an insane amount of money. It's not. But obviously, for a network switch that you can get for £40 or £50 in a store, this is a lot more than that. But in terms of audio performance, if you're doing networked audio, so you're streaming from Tidal or from Qobuz, or that you're playing your own stored music on a network attached storage device, this makes such a big difference. So it really ties everything together.
Excellent. Okay, and so you first saw that when? Was it in Munich?
I heard about it just before Munich. I got it just prior to Munich, but it was launched officially. It was launched at Munich. I think actually it might have been launched at Exponor, but certainly first public seeing in Europe was at Munich, and I think it was very well received.
Sure,
understandably so.
Of course. And so then, talking of Munich, that was our first show for what, nearly 3 years?
Pretty much, yeah.
So,
it was Bristol before that, Bristol 2020, and then it all went quiet until May. There have been other shows, small shows like Exponor in the US, and quite a few smaller shows, but principally Munich has traditionally been the big event of high-end audio worldwide for many years, and it's been much needed.
Absolutely, it was great to be there and see lots of people again, and not only our friends from the industry, but also general public. It was a very busy show, and quite a lot of exciting product there. I think a lot of people have had some time to kind of prepare product for launch, and this was the first big opportunity for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a difficult couple of years. We've had a good and bad difficult couple of years. One of the big problems at the moment still is supply chain issues, which apply to everything with a plug, basically. Audio is no different from this. That because we're in such a sort of global market now, that one set of components might be made in one country, one set in another, and because COVID stopped that synchronicity of supply, we ended up with products being delayed, and those delays are still working through. And certainly there were some products on show that were intended to be launched smash bang at the show, and were ultimately 2 or 3 weeks away, 2 or 3 months away in some cases. But that didn't stop a lot of really good products we're starting to see a lot of really good products coming out, and a lot of ones that we sort of saw inklings of in 2020 that just went away for a couple of years and now are coming back and are in their sort of either finishing touches or they're good to go. I think that's a really good part of it.
Yeah, excellent. And so then, whilst at Munich, what else did you see that was any new technologies and anything new emerging?
There seems to be more of a move toward the network within the loudspeaker. So the loudspeaker becomes pretty much everything. I mean, we saw that just before Munich with the KF LS60, and we saw it with the Dynaudio Focus range. And these are not traditionally. We've had very good speakers like the name Muso, which are fine and do really well, but they're more a sort of crossover between a normal style speaker and a proper system. These are very much an audio system in almost a conventional way, except that they don't bother with a separate amplifier and they just use stream directors.
So it's still a traditional two-speaker kind of
two loudspeakers,
but all built in almost.
Yeah, two loudspeakers, but they're actively powered, and one of them is a hub that will connect to your phone or to your network or to what have you. And that's a real thing that's kind of starting through. I mean,
but it's not that new though, is it? I mean, it's
no, but I think where it's changed and where it's got really exciting is that it's now starting to be accepted as a high-end proposition, as opposed to just a kind of this is our cheapest speaker has now been blinged up with Wi-Fi. This is now, we have made a very dedicated and very high-end solution to this. So that is new. That's certainly...
So the acceptance factor is new, in a way?
Yeah, the acceptance factor, I think, trails the products in something like this. We quite often see, I mean, this is a perfect case in point, that 5 or 6 years ago, the idea of an audiophile network switch was met with derision. Then people heard them and thought, yeah, that's okay. And then from there, we started to they become more of a thing. And I think that is a hurdle that integrated systems, speaker systems, are overcoming. All-in-one speaker systems. Part of the problem is terminology. We don't quite know what to call it. Different companies call it different things.
And do you think, though, that some of the sort of acceptance factor is down to that slow burn, where people are getting used to that being around, and I suppose also the improvement in the technology that can be squeezed into a small box, if you like, that it's actually, you know, better quality and more therefore accepted by audiophiles, as well as the whole idea of it is accepted?
Yes, I mean, I think one of the issues is that if you've been doing this for a long time, you've already got a system that's very well sorted, and what you're thinking about is changing individual components to it. And a system where it's basically one big pair of loudspeakers doesn't fit with that. So that's a bit of a change. But in some respects, that's not so much that it's going to be an effect on traditional and existing market. That's new people coming to them and seeing, oh great, I can get all of that in a pair of loudspeakers, sign me up, which is a slightly different stance from, I want to buy a new streamer, or I want to buy this, or I want to buy that. I mean, the other thing that these are doing is they're also allowing a certain amount of backwards compatibility. So a lot of the current ones are including turntable inputs, for example, and I think that's a big important change.
No, absolutely. But I think, you know, something you picked up on there is that sort of the people coming newly into the market and looking for solutions for what they want into, you know, maybe smaller apartments, and looking for something that's neat and tidy and that doesn't need a rack and doesn't need lots of space, sort of metropolitan style. Actually, that's a really good solution, and it's a good entry point as well for someone who might not know and might not want to have to buy, you know, 5 or 6 different components.
Sure.
It's great that there are these offerings now, and as you say, the fact that the technology has developed so that they're not having to sacrifice quality in order to accommodate their spatial requirements.
I think that also applies. I mean, we saw in a little respect, we saw that in car space, and certainly with as we're moving more toward an integrated system from the car manufacturer as opposed to an add-on system. I mean, I think we've done that years ago, but it's quite interesting just how integrated they're getting as we're moving into an increasingly electric vehicle world. Because the advantage with an EV is that you still have road noise, but you don't have quite the same engine noise. You'll have that, if you want, you'll get that sort of Star Trek-y whir that you can get. But principally, it means that engine noise, which, yeah, let's face it, was quite exciting in some cars, was intruding in the sound space. And once you take that away, you've got a lower noise floor to work from, so you can make actually a better sounding system, because you're not fighting that quite as much. Companies are working very closely now with manufacturers. We had a chance to have a ride in a Porsche that was Burmister's
Taycan, wasn't it? The fully electric, yeah.
Fully electric Taycan. Now, aside from the head snapping acceleration, the system now it's a complete front panel across the entire front of the front of the panel. That's a very repetitive word.
Dashboard.
It's the entire dashboard. In fact, the passenger side and the driver's side is given over to a touchscreen. And that allows you, if you're not being pressed back in your seat, to adjust the system really nicely. And you can have there's a strong sense of control. There's a strong integration now with Bluetooth, so your phone's your source. It will have its own local storage as well. But essentially, the sound quality is very good. The sound quality we know it's going to be very good in a way because it's a very controlled environment. You know how many people are in the space, you know the size of the space and the furnishing. So from that perspective, it's a very easy thing to work with. digital signal processing has improved immeasurably over the years. The biggest problem now is getting the chips for, again, supply chain issues. But in that respect, you're now listening in a car environment that's so much better than it used to be. And it's not just a noisemaker that you have in your commute. It's an audio system that is so good that you'll want to update your own system. And unless you've got something that's pretty high end already, you're not going to find something that's better.
Either that, or you want to live in your car and just listen to that system.
Well, there's that as well, and
which isn't always practical.
Yeah.
So yeah,
sleeping it gets a bit odd there.
No, sure. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. For now, we're going to take a quick break. It's difficult to sit here without tucking in, and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to the YouTube channel of Hi-Fi Plus. This is part 2, and as is customary in the afternoon, we've put our bunting up and had a few sandwiches and cakes.
Yes, but the butler hasn't cleared anything away, so we're upset. Anyway.
So during the break, we were talking about other new products that we've both come across and that we're likely to be looking at in the near future. And there's a new pair of speakers from Bowers & Wilkins.
Yep. Absolutely. The Bowers & Wilkins upgraded their 800 range recently, and we've just taken delivery of the 805 D4. The D4, the 805, is their two-way stand mount loudspeaker, perfectly designed for smaller, more contemporary, it's a good speaker for a small to medium sized room. It's a really fine monitor that is derived from the same units that are used at Abbey Road, and they keep developing. This is a speaker that was originally designed in the mid-80s and has been through continuous development cycles ever since. I think it's about every 6 or 7 years they replace with a new version, and each time it's getting better and better. There are changes to both the cabinet, the drive units, the diamond tweeter that they've used for years now. They have long since got rid of the distinctive yellow Kevlar driver, but they use these very, very clever cone technologies. And really the 800 series is kind of like their flagship, their reference product. Most people associate it with the big ones, the 801s and 802s, which we've already covered. One was a pair of those big speakers in the magazine. But realistically, the smaller ones are so much more kind of accessible. They're really geared toward normal size listing rooms, so you don't have to have a barn of a place, and that's something I think we're really getting more and more into in the magazine. Late.
Absolutely. And have you had a chance to listen to them yet?
Yeah, just very briefly. I heard them, first of all, at their initial launch, which was at Abbey Road. But I've also had a chance to have a quick audition of them and when we got them in. And I've also been given a pair of the previous models just to check, and there's a big difference.
So you've been given a pair just to do a comparison with on the upgrades, and
as well as loaning the new ones, we've got the existing models, and the jump's big. It's traditionally when you move from one series to another with the 800s, they get a lot better, but this is a big jump even by those standards.
I find it's always nice when a manufacturer will send you the old pair or the old product and the new one, because they're obviously very confident in the new product and the differences, and it's not just a facelift, if you
absolutely,
like. There's a sonic improvement as well.
I mean, I think with Bowers & Wilkins, because they're very science led and they have a large engineering department, I think with B&W, with Bowers & Wilkins, they're very much led toward the moment the first model starts is launched, they're working on the next generation. So they're already working on the ones that are coming up in 6 or 7 years' time. they don't stop with that, but a lot of that isn't just that well, they're holding things back. It's that over the course of the next few years, developments in material science and loudspeaker technology will change. I mean, it's a bit of a slow moving market, because we've been making loudspeakers now for more than 100 years, or 100 years at least. But the changes are still there, and they're still coming through, and they're still making speakers that get better with each successive generation. They get cleaner, they get less distorted, they get more open, they get more dynamic, they get more efficient, so you don't need as big an amp to drive them. And all of those things seem to have happened with the 805 D4 compared to the D3 that preceded it.
Mm.
And I should continue talking while he finishes his tea.
Great time to stop talking.
I thought so.
No, I agree, but I think that is what you expect from new models or new iterations of models, rather than just as a new colour range offered.
We don't always get that. Sometimes the biggest change between one model and another is the change of the name, or a new finish, or a new thing. And sometimes, even if there are developments, they don't actually proof out in the sound. Whereas I think with this, there is a very distinct, better quality from the newer models than there is from the old. To hear more about that, obviously you're going to have to wait a little while, because that's coming up in our August issue.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, don't give it all away now.
No.
So, Alan, in the next few issues, what can our subscribers on YouTube, perhaps if they subscribe to the magazine, what can they expect to be seeing in print? Well,
I think turntables are still an important part of our market. They're continuing to grow again, and I think we're going to see. We're going to cover a lot more. Recently, we've been covering individual components of that make up a good turntable, like a really good tone arm. We've got the new Sapphire 9 from Kuzma coming soon. But we're also going to concentrate very much on the complete turntable package.
I think with the Sapphire 9, we've got the world exclusive on that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Excellent. That's exciting. So to read about the Kuzma Sapphire 9, first place in the world, Hi-Fi Plus, in which issue?
I think it's going to be in September.
September, yeah.
Put me on the spot like that. It could be. It's a month that ends in R, definitely, or Y, or E. Or one of them, anyway, but it'll end in a letter, definitely.
Right, okay. So that's coming, which is quite exciting. Anything else that you want to add?
We'll be looking at a whole bunch of fun stuff. We're trying to look more at, in terms of things like, we're looking at a new power amplifier from Burmester, which is replacing a model. Burmester don't change their models too often. Where they're replacing one that was originally launched in 1991. And it's very rare to find a product that's still been in production more or less unchanged for nearly 30 years. But actually the changes are important, and I think they're moving ahead there. There will be many other things that we'll be looking at, but those are two that are really close, in my head at the moment. And with the Burmester, I'm just thinking of how my back's going to take it, because it's a big heavy beast.
Excellent. Okay, well, good luck with that. And well, thank you for watching. Don't forget to click the link below to subscribe and like our videos, and check out our sister publication, The Absolute Sound, and hifiplus.com. Thanks very much indeed.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.